Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Zach.
Hey, everybody, this is Sawyer. Welcome to the Come On podcast. We're really glad you're joining us.
So come on and join us in the trenches.
Come on. But I'm seriously about to try to get into golf.
Wow.
And my sister's significant other is like super, super, super into it. And I'll send him screenshots of stuff that I want to buy, but I'm also on a budget. And he's like, "No, man, you got to get these shoes." And I'm like, "I'm gonna wear Crocs. I don't like. Yeah. I'm not spending.
Get some drywall screws and go.
Yeah,
make your own grip.
I'm not spending $200 on golf shoes. Are you kidding me? To go to Chenault?
Yeah.
Like what?
I used to play all the time. I love it. The church has that golf tournament coming up.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I don't know. It's 4-man scramble. We'll see how that goes. The good thing about that is you hit your ball in the woods, just leave it for the next guy and just go play that, best ball.
Yeah. I guess like, and I've heard like different people have different opinions, but I mean, you don't have to spend a ton of money just to start. I mean, you can just.
Yeah. Usually you can find clubs from somebody that he bought them and doesn't play. Or
I've heard thrift stores, garage sales.
The First West thrift store at one time, and they were decent.
Yeah.
You know, like Burner 2.0s, which I don't know a lot about them, but that's what I have.
Whoa.
And they're not. Yeah. So you do that, and then you walk the course, which is a little difficult, especially in the hot summertime.
Just buy a golf cart.
Yes.
Yeah.
4-seater with a radio.
Yeah. Touchscreen.
Cabin air.
Very nice. How's your day been? Week been?
Mine has been pretty good. It's been really busy trying to get everything situated. I don't know if that'll ever change, but it's been good. Been spending time in the evenings riding around on the golf cart. Speaking of golf carts, not playing golf though. Walking the neighborhood, walking some parks. It's been fun.
Walking parks?
Yeah, or hiking.
Yeah.
With a backpack on, trying to get ready for Colorado.
Mission trip.
Yeah.
Nice. You so riding the golf cart around your neighborhood's getting you prepared for mission trip.
It's teaching me what I should be doing versus hiking.
Yeah. You're gonna bring your golf cart while everybody else is walking.
Ride the golf cart with one of those masks on, that restricts your breathing.
Yeah. Like, oh boy.
Altitude mask, I believe.
Yeah. I had one of those in like 7th grade, and I thought I was this stuff, but I was still like 200 something pounds fat, and, like doing nothing. That was weird.
Yeah. So, all that's going on. It's been interesting. So, how about your week?
It's been good. I am we're getting situated in our new house. We, like I said, I'm the Masters was last weekend, and so I started watching that. I've never watched golf, and so this week I have like done all the research that I can do about golf, and now I think I'm a pro. And Kirsten's like, "Why in the world are you watching golf?" She's like, "Please, let's watch anything else."
Yeah,
and I love it. But we're getting situated in our new house and getting situated at work, trying to do my thing. But it's been a good week. I'm ready for this weekend, Easter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we could get on here every week and probably say, everybody wants to say I'm having a great week, but everybody's got different levels of stress with things going on. And if we didn't, then we would
not be authentic.
We wouldn't be growing, so yeah.
It's people just have mundane weeks sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we dove off into some interesting topics last week, and we both talked about that. We really liked that. Like diving into the questions, And
I like the regular topics like the prayer or the the other topics that we've done. But I also think that it's also cool to kind of branch out into stuff that people don't really talk about. And I enjoyed that conversation a lot.
Well, I think that really goes like truth in the trenches. So what does that mean? I think that's those questions that a lot of people either don't want to talk about or are very sensitive to even talk about. And it's like you said on the last one. I mean, these are things that we all think and talk about outside of church, or whatever, between, friends or whatever. So this is just me and you diving on. We don't, we're not scripted here, so we're just diving off into these questions, see how it goes, which is cool. I like that.
I do too.
It's authentic. So.
Well, you also, Jesus, like I said, Jesus talks about this stuff, so why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And I think he did talk about like, why is prayer important? Why is fasting important? He did. And that's in scripture. But I also think whenever some of the stuff that isn't written down in the Bible, like the dinner conversations that him and the disciples had, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for some of those, and just the hard questions that he asked.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to hear those and loved to have been a part of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of everyday life in between the chapters
What
that
was
we
written
don't
down.
we don't really know. Yeah. So that's really cool.
3 years.
Of not just 8 hours a day, it was 24/7.
All the time.
All the time.
Slept in the same area, did everything together.
Yep. So we talked about that. I think this was the question that I didn't come up with this one either. I don't even know where I found it, but the question is basically, if you were to make a human, what would you, if you were creating a human, what would you put them through? Would you just give them patience, give them joy, give them all the fruit of the Spirit, or do you give them situations to go through to gain those traits? And Lauren did. We kind of talked about this last night because I talk about it a lot. Different questions like that, and she related it good to parenting. So like your kids,
I was thinking that too. Yeah.
Like if you just give them everything they want, we see how that turns out. They usually, when they're on their own, they usually go wild. Yep. Typically,
right.
So,
well, think about it, like if you're my boss, and say I made $50,000 in a year, whatever. I'm just throwing out a number. If January 1st you just handed me $50,000,
what would you? Yeah.
Well, like, what's the point?
That's good.
Why would I show up to work every day?
Yeah. Yeah, because you've already got it.
Right. I have it, and honestly, I probably would just spend it and then be counting the days until next January. You know,
just do what's just enough to get by. And I think so. If you look at it, with, it's all the things, but anger and stuff like that. If you were just perfect, what's the point?
Right.
Like, there's no free will. You don't have choices. Everything's just there. I don't even know what you would do.
Right.
Would you ever get hungry?
Right.
I don't know.
I think about the garden before sin entered the world. What did that look like? What were they? Everything was perfect. They didn't need anything. They weren't hungry. They weren't thirsty. They were naked. They didn't need clothes. They weren't hot. They weren't cold. They didn't need anything. Yeah. And so, everything was perfect. And then sin entered the world, and we realized that we were naked. We realized how disgusting, how it exposed the disgusting parts of our lives. And then all that went out the door, everything entered the world: hunger, thirst, needed clothes, hot, cold, everything, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I didn't even really think about that until you said that, but it was at one time was
perfect,
basically perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And they were in the presence of God. And I think that's what heaven's going to be. And everybody thinks of like heaven as, and I know it seems like I'm diving off into a random subject, but everybody thinks that heaven's going to be like, I get this mansion, like I get the nicest house, I get, all the clothes I want, I get the coolest car. And like, sure, I don't know for a fact what heaven's going to be like and what it's not going to be like. But if God's presence is absolute perfection, like if us as sinful humans cannot enter God's presence because he is too holy, then once that is removed, once we're covered and we're able to be in his presence, that is absolute perfection, and we're there, and that is heaven.
Yeah.
And so I know I'm diving off into it,
No.
but like, I don't know. We strayed so far from God once sin entered the world. And so, I mean, if you think about it, what did Adam and Eve have to do to get to perfection? You know, like, because whenever God created them, he said, I made man and it was very good.
Yeah.
So did it take 40 years for him to make man, or was it spoken into existence? Which, I mean, God can do whatever he wants, but like, what were the traits that Adam had? You know?
Yeah. I wonder, and now that you say that, I think that would be basically the fruit of the Spirit would be the traits, because
Right.
that's what I look at. Like, if you pray for patience, you don't just get that.
Yeah.
You're probably going to wait for something that you really, really want or need, maybe,
Yeah.
for a long time. And then you're going to know how to be patient. So the next time that comes up,
Yeah.
maybe it took a year. This time it's taken 2 years, or whatever. You learn patience.
Yeah.
Anger, if you want to get rid of your anger, he's going to give you some situations to put you in to have to control that anger and learn to control it. Now, he can deliver you from things, but I think that's a little different. I mean, he delivered me from, anger outbursts, but I still get angry, so, but I don't outwardly express it like I used to. So I think, and he's given me a lot of situations to be angry about and do that. And I guess I've just learned to, and I don't bottle it up for sure. So I think that's another point.
Yeah.
You don't just hold everything in, then you'll just blow up one day. You got to voice your frustration, but you don't have to throw chairs and punch holes in walls.
Right. I don't know the point I was trying to make earlier, and I think I went around Mary's house, and I just, like, once my brain has to make a point, I just had to make a point. But I mean, you think of Jesus, he was born in the world and he lived a perfect life. And we forget sometimes that man lived 30 years.
That's a long time.
That's a long time to not sin.
Yeah.
And he was exposed to all of sin.
Yeah.
And I think because God could have just created, like he did Adam, he could have just created Jesus. All right, 30-year-old man, you're perfect. Go down the cross. No, he went through
everything we go through.
Everything. And what I guess the question for me is, like, what's the difference between, and I'm asking this, but like, I realize how crazy this is, but like, what's the difference between me and Jesus? Like, why did, I feel like he already had the attributes that he needed. You know what I mean? But I know that he didn't, because he was born as a human and he lived a human life, but he lived it by not sinning. So what was the process that he went through to reach where he was? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's just like he had perfect patience. He had perfect wisdom. He fled lust, there were everything, he went through it and he did it perfectly. And, once Adam and Eve sinned, he told man, like, you're going to have to work the land. And I think that also means you're going to have to work for literally everything.
Yeah.
You're going to have to work to mature.
Yeah.
Work for knowledge. Like, it's not just going to be given to you. And so that's crazy.
It's funny you say that, because I have James 1, verse 2-4 in NIV, and that's what it talks about. So consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything.
Yeah.
So not lacking anything.
Yeah.
And we're going to face trials of many kinds. So that, I mean, that's that's the whole point. So if you're making a human, God made us. He tried it with Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And so that didn't work out. So obviously we're not capable of not sinning.
Right.
Jesus enters the world, but now we go through many different trials to build us up, and it says that you're not lacking anything. So
right.
Holy moly, how long does that take?
Yeah.
And that's the thing though. If we just got everything, then what is the point? You don't have there would almost be no purpose in life.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. I mean, if everything was perfect and we're just perfect, I mean, then I guess maybe you wouldn't even have the temptation of the lust, say cheating on your spouse or something like that. You wouldn't even have that. I mean, You'd be perfect.
Why don't we just ask God to give us everything that we need to live the rest of our lives, and then He just does it?
Yeah.
And I don't. There's obviously that would obviously be. I don't want to say God would be dumb to do that, but it wouldn't make any sense.
Well, He tried it basically with Adam.
At first, He did.
Yeah.
He gave it to us.
We don't know how to handle that.
Well, it's like David. He was a man's after God's own heart, even after he slept with, what's her name?
Bathsheba.
Bathsheba, yeah. Even after he cheated on her husband he slept with Bathsheba, who was married, and then got her pregnant, and then killed her husband. Killed him.
To try to fix it.
And it was just crazy, horrible thing after crazy, horrible thing after crazy, horrible thing. And then even after that, God said, "You're a man after my own heart." Yeah. And I think at the time, David was thinking, this is horrible. Why do I have to be going through this? God, please deliver me from this. And God was just letting it happen. Mm-hmm. But then it made David who he was at the end.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, Solomon,
mm-hmm.
He started out, I guess you could say, not perfect, but he started out very well off, and then he went downhill, and then he come back. And the David thing, boy, he really messed that all up, didn't he?
Yeah.
But like you said, during the time of David, him doing that, him in the middle of his sin, I guess, I'll relate that back to everybody wants to discount an addict. Mm-hmm. They're just, they're not doing right and all that. But you never know. We don't know their heart. Right. We don't know the true. We can all say that we're going to do things or not do things. Mm-hmm. But that's why God knows our heart. He knows what our true intentions are. I truly believe there's addicts that are out there that really want to quit and just cannot quit. Yeah. And you can relate that to anything. That could be a porn addiction, alcohol, drugs, anything. Yeah. I mean, it can be anything.
Well, Paul, whenever he begged God 3 times to take this thorn out of my flesh, and God was like, "No, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in your weakness." And that verse alone, and I think I've quoted that on here before, but that verse basically just sums up it's good to be weak. It's good to experience weakness. That's when I shine.
Yeah.
And God's saying, man, God's kind of getting pumped up in heaven whenever we're going through trials. That's how I like to think of it. He's like, all right, here we go. Come on, let's go.
That goes back to when the devil goes to God, who am I going? Who can I test? And he's like, take my man Sawyer.
Yeah.
Let's see what he's got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a mindset shift. I always say that because you, instead of moping around, you'd be like, we don't like it, obviously.
Sure.
But you're like, dang, man, I'm going through this for a reason. Like,
Yep.
I'm about to learn. I'm about to be, you could look at it, I'm about to be more patient. I'm about to, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, it's like when he tells us to rejoice whenever Peter and what's the guy's name? The other guy, after Jesus ascended into heaven, and they were preaching in this town, got arrested. The Pharisees were like, "Hey, don't do that anymore." And they went to jail. Earthquake happened. They were released from jail. And they went back to preaching in the town, and then they got arrested again. And they were like, "Hey, don't preach in this town." They got stoned and beaten, and almost killed. And then they were thrown out of the city, and they were like high fiving on the outside of the city, like, "Look at us, man! We just stinking almost died for Jesus. Like, let's go." And it said they rejoiced because they were counted worthy to be persecuted. Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah.
And no one thinks about that, but like that, they were learning, they were being taught, and they were, I mean, obviously they were still growing, but after that, they went back into the city, preached the same gospel, and the people that stoned them got saved, and it's just, it all has a purpose to why we're experiencing these things, why we are going through what we're going through, and we don't necessarily see what's at the end of it, but man, God's got, regardless of what we're going through, regardless of our status here on earth, God is still on his throne. He is still working, regardless of what we're thinking about it, regardless of how depressed we are. He is still working it out, and he has scripted our entire lives out, and he's just watching it happen. Mm-hmm. And he's watching us grow. Pastor Tom said this one time, how he keeps a prayer journal and he writes down what he prays for. And then a year later, 2 years later, he'll go back and read what he prayed for, and he'll forget about things that he prayed for. Mm-hmm. And he'll be like, "Man, look at God.
Yeah.
Look at what he's done."
That's cool. Mm-hmm. That's like, I heard this yesterday. It was on a YouTube video or something. Mm-hmm. And the guy said, like, we worry about so much, like wanting things or whatever. Yeah. It equates to like a short person worrying about being short.
Yeah.
And the worrying making them taller.
Yep.
Like that would ever work.
Yeah.
So you can equate that. It was really good because he was talking about like your finances or your job or your the girl that you want to ask out. If you just sit there and worry, it's not going to do anything.
Not going to do anything. Yep.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what, it says pray at all times. I think that's what we talked about that before too. It's not literally 24/7, but praying everything, praying for every situation.
Yep.
And you're in it for a reason. So
yeah.
One of these, part of my notes was, we want the product, but not the process. And I think that's good. We all want the end result. We just don't want to go through the journey, but really life's about the journey.
Yeah.
So we all want heaven. We can't just jump and get there.
Yeah. I like what Mike Tyson says. He said, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And, I mean, we all think, I'm going to buy this house, or I'm going to buy this car, or this is the life I'm going to live. This is what I'm going to, and that's why, and I don't know the verse, I'm probably going to butcher it, but it says, basically it's God saying, it is so dumb for you to say tomorrow I'm going to do this, or next week I'm going to do that. You don't know what you're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then the next verse, he says, look at the birds. They neither sow nor reap, nor gather in barns, but I take care of them. They're not going to starve.
Yeah.
They're okay.
Yeah.
And the flowers, they don't do anything for me, but look how beautiful they are. Look how much I take care of them. And God's like, you don't know what's going to happen in your life.
How much more will he do for us?
Right. He's going to take care of us. Boom.
Let's see what I got here. I got a little note here about Joseph too. He had a dream, but before the dream became reality, he went through betrayal, slavery, false accusation, and prison. So why would he have to go through that? It was because a ruler needs more than a dream. He needs wisdom, humility, and endurance. And God used every moment to make Joseph into the man who would save a nation. So if he hadn't gone through all that, he couldn't be the leader that he was.
Yeah.
I even have David here too. David was anointed a king, but spent years running from Saul, living in caves, hiding in fear. Why? Because kingship isn't just about position, it's about preparation. God was teaching David how to trust him in the dark before placing him in the light.
Yeah.
So that's just a couple examples there, but
Yeah.
and we read that stuff, we read it, and then we say, yeah, you got to go through that, and then we're going through it, and we're moping about it, it's just us, you know.
Yeah, and I think I've talked to you about it before, but the times in my life where I can look back now and I can say, man, that was the really hard time in my life. That was probably the hardest time in my life. You know, I can look back and pinpoint those big moments of really deep, dark places in my life. But I had such a reliance on God that I don't like today. And I'm not saying my life is perfect or it's super good, but it's not where it was. I crave that reliance that I had on God, that constant, I relied on God so much in those times. And I'm not saying that I want to go back to that, but I want to crave him like I did in those moments. And I think that's one reason. And you talked about dangerous prayers one time. You talk about, you ask God, you pray to God and you say, God, give me patience, or God, give me, set my heart on fire for you, God. Like, give me a new love for you, renew it. He's gonna do
Might
it.
be packing up like our friend and going to Wales.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You never know. I think, I mean, you just never know what the dangerous prayers thing. I mean, you pray for that, and then like I said, we pray for it, we get it, and then we whine about it.
Forget about, yep.
Or then also, like you said, I don't know how many times that I've been, like you said, things are rough or whatever, and you're just, it's like you're thinking about God all day, praying.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get a taste of what you were praying for, and you just kind of slack off, and then it's good, and then you kind of may or may not pray or something. You know what I'm saying? And then, or you're not as deep in the Bible. I think, I guess probably everybody does that.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. If we're truly supposed to pursue living like Jesus did, that man was in constant prayer. He would retreat to go pray.
Yeah.
He would go by himself to pray. I mean, constantly praying.
I think Jeremy Kent said one time, it was the Bible is full of dudes that just went out into the wilderness to pray with God and learn about Jesus.
Yep.
Thank God.
Looking at go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like, what do we do? You know what I mean? It's
go to work.
Yeah.
Go to Target.
We put man, and if you talk to people like in other countries about this, they think we're weak.
Pathetic.
Yeah.
Pathetic.
Yeah.
Which
they spend like 3 days in a row, take off work. I know one company that every Saturday they shut their whole business down. It's an online business too, so it could run 24/7. They shut it down. They don't let you check out or anything till Sunday, I think. There's a Saturday Shabbat.
Oh yeah, that's that production company or whatever.
Yeah, B&H
exactly.
If sponsor.
I was gonna say something super holy, super awesome.
It's gonna be really good.
When I think about it, it's gonna be so good. What were you just saying? You were just talking about something super holy and super awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Oh my gosh, that's going to kill me.
I know how that feels. You're getting old. How old are you?
23.
What?
23. You didn't know that?
I do, but I'm just...
I'll be 24 in July.
That's so crazy. Couple of questions here.
Okay.
That you would ask when you're going through a challenge would be, what could God be forming in me through this? It goes back to when you're going through something, instead of, woe is me, you try to reframe some questions.
Yep.
Another one would be, the main question is, if I were making a human and wanted them to be strong, patient, mature, kind, all the things, what would you put them through?
Yeah.
So when you're in a situation, you're trying to think about, like, okay, I'm going through this season. What is it for? What would, if I was the one if I was putting you through this season, what would I do to you to make you learn X? Or what would I be looking for you to learn through this season?
Yeah. And it's okay if you don't know that answer too, just that's really a good time. And I'm talking to myself too, but that's really a good time to say, okay, I'm going to practice my faithfulness in this season.
Yeah.
Of, I don't know why you're doing this, God, or, not blaming God, but saying, I don't know what this is producing in me. I trust you. And I know that you have orchestrated everything, every step that I'm taking. And I know that you've got my back through this regardless. And the worst thing that could happen to me right now is I die, but
Yeah.
I go to heaven.
Yeah.
And so it's really not that bad.
You get your reward.
Yep.
I did have here about Jesus. So, though sinless and divine, he learned obedience through what he suffered. That's Hebrews 5:8. The Son of God endured the cross to fulfill his mission and to show us that glory comes after the garden, the cross, and the grave.
Wow.
I mean, dude, he knew the plan. And he knew how we are right now. We talked about that. How we are right now, as bad as we all are, and he still did it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why, like the Bible says, we can't even comprehend that amount of love.
Yeah.
We just can't.
One of my favorite verses is, I think it's John. It's either John 1:6 or John 1:16. It's in John, and it says, "For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace." And it's not anything that we did. If it was up to us, we'd have lost it.
Yeah.
If we had to earn our salvation, we would never earn it. Could never. And also, like while Jesus was on the cross, he was thinking of the worst thing that Sawyer has ever done or will ever do, and he still thought I was worthy enough to do that. Mm-hmm. I'm not worthy, but he loved me enough to do it for me.
Yeah.
Regardless. So,
you know what I think? One of our next discussions would be, it would have been a perfect time to do this, but would be on the crucifixion and the road to the cross, I guess. So or the journey, for Jesus to the cross.
That's what you and Jim talked about?
Yeah. I think he went through that with me, and I think it just paints a whole nother picture than what a lot of people have heard. Not that it's different, but it really puts it in. He talks about the flies that would have been around.
Wow.
The sounds of the animals being sacrificed.
I would be so interested to hear that. Wow.
I think that would be a good one to go through, because I'd never heard it like that.
Yeah. Man, the Bible has so much depth.
Yeah.
I love learning about that stuff and hearing about all the intricate details of everything. Oh, I love that stuff.
I think it's for me, because we read it, we hear it. Like, just say if you grew up in church, you hear all the stories. I always say the dude in the well, and just all those stories, and you just kind of like glass over it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, the dude died on the cross for me, but he was God, so he didn't really feel anything. That's not true. It's not the truth. And we need those details. I know as a kid, you can't really get into a lot of that. But
you calling me a kid?
Yeah, you're 23. So I just think that a lot of those, we hear those stories. We don't really think about the time frame.
What was going on at
What
the
was
time.
truly going on. I
Yeah.
mean, we could tie that into women in the church, different things
Sure.
like that. Just
Sure.
really knowing what was going on in that time
Yeah.
period of history,
Yeah.
or just the scenery, talking about the cross of blood and the flies and the animals being sacrificed, and hundreds of thousands of people
Yeah.
coming in for that, and just the noise, and just all the things, man. I would love to dive into that.
Man, I saw this video one time. I know I saw this video one time it was this missionary. He was in the Congo or whatever, in this this village that there was unreached people. And he was, instead of like telling them the gospel, and they were like using their language, somehow they stayed there, lived there, learned their language, and they put on the play, like the life of Jesus.
Oh yeah.
And at the end of it, whenever Jesus died, like every men, women, children, all of them were just squalling, like bawling, crying. And it's like, and it was a horrible, like they were horrible actors, but they just could not comprehend, like, someone died for me. They could not grasp it. And so we're so numb to that. And that goes back to modern American culture. Like we are pathetic. And we've really got to get back.
We've watered it down pretty bad.
Oh,
If you, like that's what I was saying. If you talk to some people in other countries,
it's pretty embarrassing. But God, there's grace for that. But we just gotta get back to it.
Well, I think that's kind of our thing behind this podcast is, we've said it 1,000 times. We're not super professional. We're not polished. We don't know everything.
Right.
We're literally recording our conversations about this. It's basically like our small group. It's the point of having a living room set up, be comfortable and join in. And I think that, a lot of people show up on Sunday, they hear the verse or the sermon, that's all they ever hear.
Yeah.
They don't get to hear all the details. And we just get so used to that because it's just what you do.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, we're going to church. Go eat and then go home. That's it.
Just
Sunday,
we're
fun
numb
day.
to it.
Yep. I was going to read one of my favorite verses.
Please do.
Romans 8:28. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them.
Man, that's such a perfect verse for this topic.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
That's so it's Romans 8:28.
Yeah.
You can, when you have those situations like we're talking about, you could literally just recite that in your head. Just to, man, and this may be weird. You could be at the red light and somebody stays through the red light. I talk about these things all the time, but it's a mindset, training yourself to think this way.
Yep.
Of this is for good. Somehow I don't understand it. This is for my good.
Yep.
And so these seasons that we go through, you got to think about, the tough times. We're going through them, and it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
You hear this a lot, and I've heard people say this: if it's good, if it's God; if it ain't, it's the devil. I don't know how you take that, but you can't just sit there and say that about everything. But it also says if he's going to do everything, you might think it's bad, but he's going to make it. It's going to end up being good for you because you don't get the house. Wait a little bit, see what you get. You know.
Praise God. That's so cool.
I got a couple of
action items.
Well, this is part of it. It's like a reflection questions. I'm just going to do a couple of them.
Okay.
It says, maybe you're in a season of waiting. God is building patience. You're not being punished. You're being processed. Maybe you feel broken, but God is putting you back together with purpose. So you just never know. You may feel like you're losing something, but he's actually building you up for what
Oh,
you're
yeah.
really meant to do. And I know, man, it's tough to think that way in the season, but
Yeah.
it's just like Romans 8:28. If you just keep on looking to him, eventually you'll look back and be like, wow, if that would have happened my way, it would not have been good.
Yeah.
Or not as good or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that meta plant that we were talking about today.
Yeah.
Like it's a huge project in our state, and it's estimated to take 10 years, if not more, to build this thing. But imagine if they built the meta plant like they built a Dollar General.
Yeah.
You know, like, all right, it's up in 6 months. Like that place would like
It
wouldn't work. And like it's taken them almost 6 months just to do the dirt work for this thing.
To get even like started on it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's so many intricate details, and like, you know, we don't see the end result right now, but we're going to eventually. So just trusting that, all right, these contractors know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to work out.
All these thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that design, are implementing it, maintaining it, all the things that go into that, and you just got to know at the end it's going to work. That's a level of faith for the people that are putting that out there too. So.
Or even the people that are just watching
Yeah.
behind the scenes. It's pretty cool.
So it says offer your situation. So anything you're going through, offer them to God. Like just that goes back to just talking to God about what season you're going through, how you feel about it. Just like me and you just talk to God about it.
Yeah. Be real with them.
Yep. That's the relationship that we're called to have with him.
Come on.
We don't have to, praise the Lord, we don't have to go through anybody else to get to
God.
to God.
Yeah.
We can talk directly to him. And that's the
crazy?
truth. You ain't got to go through I'm trying not to go there, but you don't have to go. You ain't got to go through nobody to get to Jesus. Oh man, we got straight connection,
Yeah.
landline, right to Jesus, right to God, through Jesus.
DC voltage.
That's right. Direct current,
Yeah.
direct connection.
Was that a good job, Mr. Zach?
Yeah. Yeah. But man, yeah. Anyway, so if we were making a human, what would we make them go through? What kind of trials, season will we have them go through to develop them into what they're needed to be to complete the mission? So that's another part of that. We have a mission for that person, obviously, if we're creating them.
Yep.
So what would we allow them to go through?
Yeah.
That just kind of, obviously we don't create humans. That's just putting you into the mindset, kind of a paradigm there to know or to change your mindset when you're going through that.
Yeah.
We don't want to, we're all going to do it. We're all going to get in our feelings, but the point is to try to change your mindset to, how is this actually benefiting me?
Yeah.
Even though it's appears to be bad right now.
Yeah. That's so good. Praise God.
Yep. So
I enjoyed this episode. That was really fun.
yeah.
I like that. I love talks like these.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the things we talked about. We trying to do topics or questions and just try to do things, just straight unscripted and just try to talk about it. I think it feels better to me. I don't like the scripted part, which we didn't have that, but just don't like scripted stuff. It just doesn't feel authentic. So
Right.
I really enjoyed this. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Come listen in weekly. We drop an episode on Monday. We plan on having some friends with us. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have some very interesting talks with some guests. I'm excited about that.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Hope y'all have a good week.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Love y'all.